Today's devotion is called the Altar Walk. We are on day 101 and we're on April 11th. And if you saw the title, you know that the morning rinse is Genesis 21 through 24. Now, the featured verses include Genesis 21:2 and Genesis 24:58. Genesis 21:2 says, Sarah conceived and bore a son to Abraham in his old age, at the appointed time of which God had spoken to him. And then the featured verse 24:58 says, Then they called Rebekah and said to her, Will you go with the man? And she said, I will go. As a preacher's kid, I have been in numerous services and numerous camp meetings. And you can probably relate if you knew me as a child or knew about our faith as a child, or if you are a pastor's kid or if you grew up in the church, you probably also attended numerous services and numerous camp meetings just like I did. And I have heard so many people through the years verbally surrendering themselves to God's will and plan for their lives. And I have also seen countless altar calls where people have come forward for prayer as they dedicate their lives to God's purpose. It was kind of a very popular thing growing up, or in the services that I would attend. It was pretty common where people would come forward if they were answering the call of God on their lives. And most of these people, they had made that kind of a public declaration by getting out of their seat and then walking to the altar when a pastor gives an invitation to come forward and give their heart to Christ, or to give their lives over to submission of some kind of ministry. And I, too, have been one of those people to make the altar walk, is what I'm calling it, towards that commitment. And in today's morning rinse, we read about two women, Sarah and Rebekah, who, in my mind, gave similar declarations, or in the terms of this devotional, their own altar walk. We celebrate their stories, and we are so encouraged to read about the miracles in their lives. Blessings and miracles are easy for us to desire. They're part of what we want and long for so much. But let us be reminded about the sacrifices that Sarah and Rebekah made when they laid their lives down with that commitment to get those blessings and those miracles. I mean, look at Sarah, for instance. She was what some people say like 90 or 91 years old when she gave birth to Isaac. I mean, I wonder if she had to endure judgment from people who lacked faith. And what about the sacrifices of her body? I mean, did she have added aches and pains from being pregnant at the age that she was? And we can't forget how her body probably responded when she physically gave birth. I mean, those are physical sacrifices, but she also had other sacrifices as well. I mean, when we're talking physically, and I wonder how long it took for her body to recover and how weak her body felt. I once heard a pastor give a sermon, and this pastor's name is David Godbout, and he talked about this very subject, and he talked about how that Isaac was part of actually bringing back to life her reproductive system in and of itself, and he was part of that journey, and yet she probably still had physical issues with giving birth at that age. And then there's Rebekah. She was, living a comfortable and secure life with her family. But in one single day, the course of her entire future changed. She had to have been spiritually ready for that moment, because when her one day came, she was willing to step into that plan. She was willing to herself make that altar walk. I think about Esther, and I've talked about Esther when we went through Esther's book, and how that her preparation didn't just start when she was called into the castle field or wherever she was called at to begin preparation to see if she was a good candidate for the next queen. Her preparation started way before that when she was submitting to Mordecai. It's the same thing with Rebecca. When her one day came, when she had that one day that changed the course of her entire life, she was ready because of probably years of preparation. Her heart was indeed willing to follow God's direction, and her actions proved it by her public declaration and her public commitment to follow Abraham's servant and to make that altar walk. She sacrificed being with her brothers and her parents and her extended family. She left all that she knew in exchange for trusting God and walking into the unknown. Both of these ladies were willing to be noticed by God and used in his plan. Both of these ladies knew what they were sacrificing in exchange for a blessed life, and both of them were willing to make the journey of their own altar walk in their hearts, followed by their public actions. What kind of altar walk are you going to make? Are you ready for it? What if something amazing happened today, just in one day? What happens if you got a phone call that changed the course of your life today? Would you get up and move? Would you change the course of your family? Would you make that call? Would you change jobs and move to a whole other, state? We have to be ready for whatever God wants us to do. We have to be ready to make our altar walk, whatever that is, because whatever that is going to be so exciting. So I am asking you to search your heart. This is your challenge to dig deeper. Be willing to let God show you where you are hanging on to the comforts of your life, and ask him to help you surrender and let it all go. And then ask him to help you as you make your own altar walk. And what that could mean is just merely saying, God, I really do surrender it all. If you were to call me today to make a major change of something in my life, I'm willing to do that for you. I'm willing to make that sacrifice for you. Sarah and Rebecca made major changes in their lives. They made some major changes, and their altar walk was full of surrender. It did not come without challenges, of course, but it was very exciting. And so the challenge for you today is, are you willing to make that altar walk? No matter what that looks like. Are you willing to give up something that you thought you wanted? Are you willing to make changes? Are you willing to surrender hurts and pains? Whatever that is, whatever your altar walk is, I hope that you have kind of an idea of maybe what that could be. And it could be that God is not necessarily going to move you across the country, but he wants to know that whatever we are doing and whatever he is asking us to do, that he knows that you're going to be willing to do that thing. And so sometimes it's just an altar walk of surrender, just being open and ready for those things that God wants you to be a part of. It could be as simple as just preparing your heart. And so when you pull out your journal tonight and have that evening reflection, and after you have asked God, what is my altar walk about? What did God show you? Write it down. How do you feel about what he talked to you about? Are you excited? Did you surrender to the altar walk? Are you ready for change? Even if it could be really hard and really uncomfortable, do you feel like you are a little bit better prepared now because of all this journey? I mean, we've went through 3 months of just challenge after challenge, and some of them have been easy, and some of them have been intriguing, and some of them have been enlightening, and some of them have been hard. But don't you feel like you could be just one step closer to really, truly making an altar walk of surrender, so that if God asks you to do something, it may have been really hard for you to say yes 3 months ago, but today it could be a little easier. And he might, again, never ask you to make these changes. But knowing that you would be a willing vessel in case he needed you to step forward could be all that God needs. And how exciting to just be a willing vessel. So write about your altar walk and maybe share it with your spouse. What kind of altar walk are you going to make? Not that he's going to ask you to make those changes, but maybe he just needs to know you're willing. I hope that today encouraged you, because it is exciting to serve God, right? It's exciting to know that we are being asked for greater purposes, that God needs us to stand forward and to make changes in our lives so that we can help further his kingdom. And that is exciting. And that is how we rinse, reflect, and repeat. Getting closer to Jesus every single day and letting our lives shine and making a living sacrifice for our lives. As you continually move forward, know that that I'm here rooting for you, and I cannot wait to continue to hear some of the stories. I know some of you guys have been writing in the Facebook group, and I love reading the stories. So if you are not in the Facebook group, Rinse, Reflect, Repeat, be sure and join and share what you are gleaning from these challenges and from these devotionals. I love reading them. I love how God is working in all of you guys' lives. And thank you so much for being a part of this community. So until tomorrow, keep rinsing, reflecting, and repeating. God bless you.